Okay, I have an addendum to add to the previous video. And I'm going to upload these back to back, part 1 and part 2. And this will be the addendum to it, because I forgot to cover one thing. And this one thing proves that the last 2,000 years have been the main body harvest. The marriage of Boaz and Ruth happened after this fact. It happened in chapter 4. Chapter 3, verse 2, now Boaz, whose young women you were with, is he not our relative? In fact, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. See, they winnowed barley throughout the entire, it wasn't a one-time event. It was throughout the entire harvest. Otherwise, the stuff would rot. They had to get it processed. Winnowing is a key element in what's going on here. And it proves what we're talking about. Winnowing, blow a current of air through grain in order to remove the chaff. Remove chaff from grain. Remove people or things from a group until only the best ones are left. He was separating the wheat from the chaff. He was separating the grain from the junk. Because on the outside was a little case, like a carapace on the outside of the kernel. So you'd run it through, and it was run through a thing. It was a board with a rope, and they'd go through there, and it would pop that grain kernel. And that thing was called a tribulum. I freak people out when I tell them this. Tribulum is a farm implement. Harvesting and processing. An implement known as a tribulum. A wooden framework with bits or flint or metal fixed to the underside. Hauled over the grain by an animal. Winnowing was still done by tossing in the air from the winnowing basket when there was a favorable wind to blow away the chaff. The grain kernels were heavy. The grain kernels were weighty, but the chaff was very light, and it would float on the air. So they would take that grain and they would throw it out on the threshing floor. Then they would have a cow or something would walk through on the outer edges of it. There was usually a path for him. And somebody would stand on that board, he'd drag it, it'd roll over that grain, and it'd pop that kernel out. Then they would scoop that stuff up and throw it in baskets, and then somebody would go out and they'd toss it in the air, and the wind would blow the chaff away, and all they'd have left is kernels. And the kernels would land back in the basket. That's separating the wheat from the chaff. It's not we're looking for a one-time event. That's not a one-time event. He's been doing it all this time. See, everybody that calls themselves Christians, we don't know who's saved or unsaved. So we all die. Everybody that has the title of Christian dies of people looking at them as a Christian. But when the Lord gets his hands on them, it changes that. So the main body harvest has been happening for 2,000 years. And all those who are ready are waiting with the Lord to come back and receive their bodies. Does this make sense to everybody? Sure hope it does. And I've barely even covered this, guys. There's so much more in here than what I covered. If you do your research, you'll find what I found. And you'll know the month the rapture is going to happen. I know the month it's going to happen. Not because I came up with it on my own and cross-referenced and did all these different scriptures, putting together, trying to calculate all these different things. I just read the book of Ruth and it told me. You go look up what those things are that they're doing, and it's like, whoa, wait a second. It's all there. And it's always been there.